Strickland Propane had a lot of background players, but one who doesn't get the love they deserve is Roger Sack.
Yo, 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 yo! Booda Sack in the house! Booda Sack in the house! Booda Sack in the house!
Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, let's do this. Roger Booda Sack, voiced by Chris Rock in his first appearance and by Phil LaMarr in his subsequent appearances. Originally, he was going to be named Busta Nut, but the censors at Fox said no. And they also said no to naming him Busta Sack, so we got Booda Sack. His first appearance was in Traffic Jam, where Hank gets into a fender bender with Con because they both decided to back out without looking at the same time.
On this side of the earth, we back out to the right.
Yeah, just my luck. I run into uninsured redneck.
Not only am I insured, I happen to be a member of the Perfect Payment Club.
Oh, my neck is broken!
Which leads to Hank and Peggy heading down to the insurance office, where he first has to answer a few questions asked by Miss Kalaiki Ali'i.
Did you have anything to drink this morning, Mr. Hill?
No.
Did you use a mouthwash or cough syrup?
No.
Did you eat an unusual amount of sausage?
Who, of course, would appear in a later episode with her son, the Flying Hawaiian.
Strickland Propane does not have a vending machine. It smells, and I thank God every day I get home that I didn't get exploded.
And after answering questions, Hank gets approved and then apparently learns how insurance works for the first time. She tells Hank that he can avoid the rate increase if he attends traffic school, also known as defensive driving.
Yes, you're covered. Minus the deductible, and of course your insurance rates will go up.
Why should my rates go up, Miss Ka'aliki Ali'i?
Fun fact, I've done defensive driving once, and it was at a Poncho's. For those unaware, Poncho's is a pretty much extinct chain of all-you-can-eat Tex-Mex restaurants. Probably best known for having a little flag at the table you could raise to get your server's attention. It's actually where the gang gets together and decides to make Hank's cowboy movie in, well, Hank's cowboy movie.
If all the children leave Arlen, there will be no young to take care of our old. Our old will feed off our very old. Our very old who are not eaten will wish they had been eaten.
I think there's still like 5 of them left between Houston and Dallas, so you might want to check them out while they're still around. Anywho, Hank looks through the different types of defensive driving courses and decides on one that he thinks is pretty basic and straightforward.
Here we go, right to the point. Defensive driving school. Just hope they know more about driving than they do about spelling.
Yeah, so Defensive Driving is a reference to Def Comedy Jam, a stand-up comedy series that ran on HBO from 1992 to 1997 before returning for 2 seasons in 2006. And it helped quite a few black comedians launch their careers, like Bernie Mac, Steve Harvey, and Dave Chappelle. Oh, and yeah, Chris Rock was on it too. So this is where we're introduced to Roger Sack, who teaches the course at a local club called Snaps. And Hank figures out pretty quick that Roger's teaching methods are not exactly what he was looking for.
What'd you say? What'd you say? You trying to say that a black man can't put together a lesson plan? Well, I got a lesson plan. I ain't planning on teaching. Lesson, you shut up!
Well, hold on now. I didn't mean to be...
Cracker, are you taking me serious?
What's interesting is that Bobby has not only heard of Booda Sack, but he's one of Bobby's inspirations, which really makes me wonder what happened. I mean, he went from taping TV specials to teaching defensive driving at a club in Arlen, Texas. There has got to be a story there.
The Booda Sack? I saw him on TV 3 years ago on Breakfast at the Apollo. He was making fun of white people, like how we talk funny and we don't have any butts. He's one of the reasons I want to be a comedian.
Hank gets it in his head that taking Bobby to class will show him how bad being a comedian is. Don't really get his logic on that one, but it backfires when Bobby loves the act and Roger calls him up on stage in order to make fun of Hank, which of course Hank ain't happy about.
Now, don't lie now, Bobby. Does he just stand around all day drinking beer with all his other white friends going, yeah?
No, they go, yup.
Bobby ends up going back up to Snaps to talk with Roger, and we learn more about him, including the answer to the question I asked earlier, which Bobby also wondered.
So how come you're in Arlen? I mean, you're really good.
I got a little risque on Moesha a couple of years ago, and It's been hard for me ever since.
So he apparently burned some bridges and ended up in Arlen, and it's possible the drinking problem we'll talk about in a little bit may have either contributed to his downfall or was a product of it. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel bad for Roger. We see real regret on his face here, but at least he knows what he wants to do and is doing what he can to keep that dream alive.
What I want to do is make people laugh and think. You know what I'm saying?
That's why you teach traffic school.
Yeah. That's why I teach traffic school.
Bobby tries out some of his new jokes, which are basically just copying Booda Sack's type of material, and Roger gives him some good advice here, then invites him to come back for his comedy show.
I mean, you gotta be real, Bobby. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you were saying. You don't have to keep asking.
You're a white man. Get in touch with your white roots. Think of the stuff that's funny from your point of view.
Hank hears from Bobby that Roger told him not to listen to Hank, which, yeah, he kinda did. And Hank confronts Roger about this at the next class, which led to Roger shooting off several your mama jokes before making fun of Hank's narrow urethra, which, yeah, that's where Hank draws the line.
This is supposed to be a classroom. I'm leaving.
Oh, you leave my class and I'm gonna flunk you.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Hank goes to see the manager of Snaps, who's actually voiced by John Amos, an industry veteran, probably best known for either Good Times or for how I best remember him.
See, they got the Big Mac, I got the Big Mick. We both got 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions. But they use a sesame seed bun. My buns have no seeds.
Roger gets called in and the manager has a talk with him, where Roger voices his opposition to Hank having an issue with him.
You're offending people like Mr. Hill here.
Well, I got something called freedom of speech. Ever heard of the First Amendment?
Okay, so we need to go ahead and talk about the First Amendment, which states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for the redress of grievances. So the part of that really matters here is freedom of speech, meaning that the government cannot throw you in jail for saying something, which is not always the case. Yeah, go ahead, try yelling fire in a theater or bomb on an airplane. But the important part here is that your speech is only protected from the government. It is not protected from other people. The First Amendment protects you from prosecution, not persecution. And, such as in this situation, you can absolutely be fired for saying the wrong thing.
He won't teach here again. Now, I'm not supposed to do this, but why don't I transfer you to our Chalkaholics class for the last segment? Huh? How about that?
Oh, and apparently Roger was replaced with a teacher who had a Gallagher act. So Bobby, Dale, and Bill go down to the comedy club for the show, but when Bobby gets on stage, the crowd ain't too happy with his new material, which is understandable considering he got his jokes from a white supremacist website.
Yeah, it's tough being a white man these days. It's tough, I tell you. Folks, I'm so white. During the riots, I went out and bought a television.
Hank shows up as the crowd starts to get really angry and he tries to apologize for his son, but they're not having it, which is when Roger steps in.
You ain't allowed to talk that way. Not in America. Am I right, y'all? Yeah, that's right. Wrong. We got a thing called freedom of speech. And a man on this stage can say any dumb-ass thing he wants.
Yep, he tells the crowd that Bobby has the freedom of speech, which we've already covered, and though it falls under the free from prosecution not persecution thing, I agree with Roger here. Plenty of people get up on stages and say things that people disagree with, but that doesn't mean that they should be silenced. Problem was, the crowd didn't want to hear it, so Roger had to diffuse the situation using humor, primarily by making fun of Hank and his diminished glute, which is technically a medical issue, and it's not like Chris Rock has a history of negative consequences coming from him making fun of someone with a medical issue.
Booty's so small, he go hula hoop with a Cheerio.
Afterward, Hank shakes Roger's hand and thanks him for saving Bobby, also apologizing for getting him fired and offering him a job at Strickland, which Roger accepts, and the episode ends with he and Hank trading yo mama jokes.
Good job, Roger. You know, I want to apologize for all those things I said about your mother not raising you right. I'm sure if she had planned for you, it would have been different.
What? Don't make me go upside your...
Gotcha.
I want to point out that Roger refers to Hank as Drew Carey several times, Drew Carey being an actor who would end up voicing Hal. And during the credits, Roger becomes one of the few characters to break the fourth wall and directly address the audience in a PSA with Hank about how not all white people have flat butts, which makes Hank about as comfortable as you would expect.
It's a damn fine butt.
Yeah, thank you.
That butt is the bomb.
Yeah, I think it's time for the X-Files. Now! Go!
And from then on, we pretty much see him as a Strickland employee, and take me out of the ball game, he's a member of the Strickland softball team.
All right.
And we see in Unfortunate Son that Hank considers him to be a good employee, at least better than Joe Jack and on the same level as Enrique.
Sending a Joe Jack to hit him up for money is, well, kind of an insult. At least send an Enrique or a Roger Sack.
He's used a lot for stuff on the computer, such as in Grand Theft Arlen when he plays the video game Propane, which is clearly based on Hank and Strickland Propane.
Oh my God, you just punched that motorist.
I needed a vehicle.
And we find out this episode that Roger is a driver, meaning that he's most likely hazmat certified.
Well, that's the basics. I got delivery to make. Remember, cops are bad.
We see Hank admit to him in Racist Dog that he had been accused of being a racist, which Roger was surprised by considering Hank had never shown any racist tendencies towards him. In fact, quite the opposite.
Well, to be honest, Roger, I was accused of being a racist.
Hank Hill, a racist? But you got me my job here. Wait, the guy that called you that, was he wearing a bow tie?
By the way, the bow tie line is most likely a reference to the Nation of Islam, who are known for wearing bow ties, and who also believe that white people were created by black scientists, starting with Yaqub about 66,000 years ago. Anywho, it's Roger who mentions the racist test for Hank to take after he sees just how much being accused of being racist really bothers Hank, and I just want to point out, in case I haven't, that Roger is a pretty damn good guy.
You're really shook up about this. Look, I know you're not like that, but if it would make you feel better, you should take this internet test my brother-in-law made us all take last Thanksgiving. It's a good test. Said I was racially unbiased, and I love gay people. I didn't see that one coming, but I'm happy.
So Hank takes the test, which, yeah, it's intentionally confusing and meant for entertainment purposes only. Yet, when the results come back that Hank strongly prefers the company of white people, everybody, including Roger, turns on him.
This test is 100% incorrect. I do not prefer white people over others. Roger, tell him. I poured you cream.
Come on, Roger, I just said you were a pretty damn good guy. You know damn well that test isn't accurate, and that Hank isn't racist, but whatever. This also never comes up or gets addressed again, and everything seems fine between the two, considering Roger was at Lucky and Luann's wedding. Then we get to his final appearance in Lost in MySpace, where Roger should have been the one put in charge of the company's MySpace page, but instead they went with Donna, which ended up being a terrible idea, but yeah, we've covered that before. This is the episode where we find out that Roger is married and has had a drinking problem, which again may have been the cause or the product of his comedy career failing.
You're a propane in my neck.
You want to talk, Enrique? Your posts have offended everyone in this office.
Oh, please, Roger, you're just mad about those pictures.
No, my wife's mad about those pictures. I was 30 days sober.
Also, Joe Jack has a drinking problem.
Wait a minute, where's Joe Jack?
He was drinking from his mini canteen out in the parking lot, and then he was smashing car windows.
Buck has a drinking problem.
You gotta buy this grill. I need the money. There's a horse that can make all this right. You got cash? Huh?
And yeah, I'll go ahead and say that Donna probably has a drinking problem.
Oh, dance with me! Come on, I'm so drunk. I was so drunk.
So, what's the deal with Strickland employees and drinking problems? I mean, that's about a quarter of the work staff.
Let's celebrate! Who wants breakfast whiskey?
Anywho, after Donna calls in a flash mob to deal with Hank, but instead they beat up Buck, she gets fired and Roger takes down the Strickland MySpace page. And yeah, again, he should have been running it in the first place. None of this would have happened if you just put him in charge of it.
Well, the Strickland MySpace page is gone. Now, if you want to see Melinda drunk, You gotta go to the chimney sweep after 5.
Thank you, Roger. Now we can finally get back to work.
Yeah, Melinda might also have a drinking problem considering she, like Buck and Joe Jack, hooked up with Donna but can't remember where she lived because they were too drunk.
No, hell, I don't remember.
I was trashed.
Don't, honey.
Jesus, Strickland, that's a third of your workforce. You might want to look into that. Anywho, the last we see of Roger is with the rest of the Strickland family because he is part of the Strickland family when they go down to Goober Smooches.
Goober Smooches. It might not sound like a family place, but it is.
In order to talk some sense into Donna, get her to take down the Strickland page, and come back to work. So Roger started as kind of a foil to Hank and ended up being one of his better employees. He has his principles, like his staunch belief in freedom of speech, though it is weird that he would complain about Enrique's posts if he was so big on his version of freedom of speech. I really do wish they'd gone deeper into his character, especially his backstory of how he went from being on TV to selling propane. Seems like that would have been a good idea for an episode. He ended up being an underutilized background character that deserved more exploration, especially considering he was introduced as a more fleshed out one-off who showed genuine emotion when talking about comedy and his past. It would have also been great to use him as a way to bring the Propaniacs back, which again was another missed opportunity. Roger started as a pretty good character that ends up being pretty much forgotten, but you know, at least he never got the taste slapped out of his mouth on national television.
Now settle down. We got a special treat for all of y'all tonight. The youngest comic to ever set foot on this stage. Give it up for Bobby Hill.